We are very happy to welcome this event here, but it's less on the professional field, so I need some support background. So it gives me great pleasure to extend to you all a warm welcome on behalf of the Budapest Business School at this networking and knowledge sharing event, the second day of True C-LIN conference. I would like to express my warmest welcome to the guests and speakers, to the organizers, ESSRG and everybody. We are always very proud to host a co-organized event that raises awareness on such crucial issues as sustainability, and to demonstrate that it's not only a polite cliche that we are happy that having here this event. Let me tell you that I guess quite in a unique way in Hungary or maybe in Central Eastern Europe, we like to think so, we established and worked out our own sustainability strategy for 2017-20 for Budapest Business School. That's of course always a good start to at least make a strategy. On the infrastructural side, we also established a Center for Sustainability, but it's more the formal part. But believe it or not, the management of the school is really committed to do something, not only having a strategy. So we already are having some steps towards this sustainable organization we'd like to see. We started our programs with the help of the Sustainability Network, which was very much a bottom-up organization, and it's still all the projects are organized by our colleagues. So we, the management, would approve, but we never initiate, because we believe that our people figure out those are the best things. So we already started those projects on sustainability with the help of the Center for Sustainability. And we started basically with probably the less evident stakeholders, or probably the most evident stakeholders, students and ourselves, our colleagues. So of course we deal with the external world, but we think that the first step is to start dealing with ourselves. And the response so far is extremely positive. It's way over our expectations. Of course, we have a long way to go. From the research side, I'm happy to announce that last year we established on the Faculty of Commerce, Hospitality and Tourism the Sustainable Gastronomy Center. Probably that's why you are here. And the Center of Excellence aims to expand the scientific stock of knowledge of the field through research within the broad area of sustainable development into particular strands of gastronomy and catering. It aims to cover issues such as sustainable supply chain and food-based in gastronomy, carbon footprint models, and responsible business practices. And what I would like to offer you as our guests, as some collaborating partners, that for the future also Budapest Business School would like to deepen and extend its relations with external stakeholders. As I told you, with the internal ones we are already dealing with, on the principles of sustainability. We are dedicated towards promoting a more sustainable future by setting the direction and by showing the students who believe some. Honestly, on the everyday level, in many aspects, our students are much more conscious of sustainability than we are. But I don't see it as a problem. We're happy to learn. I would like to thank Dr. Angela Ludosi, the Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Hospitality and Tourism, and of course her team, to make this event happen and co-organizing with other organizations. So I would like to wish you a protein-full of day of beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now, from the organizers' part, I would like to run through with you the whole program of the day, and also introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Budapest, and I'm from the Environmental Social Science Research Group. We are co-organizing this event with the university, but also with agriculture. So we co-designed a program that is actually a second day of a 3 days event. The first day we spent on the A38 sheet with the lecture presentations, and now we will basically continue this, give you a few ideas in terms of legume consumption. This will last until 11, when we will have a Q&A, question and answer session. Very brief one, because then we will have a coffee break. And the coffee break divides this input section from a more harvesting type of section of this conference, which will be around the posters. Here around more than 20 posters, and we group them into 3 smaller groups, and we will have almost like a guided tour, 3 minute talks at every poster. So I would like to ask each of the poster presenters to be at their posters, and then we will end up this part with a lunch, which will be served at that part of the room. And right after lunch, we will continue with what we call a stakeholder café event. This is going to be a 1 hour event in 3 smaller groups in the 2nd floor of this building. You will recognize easily the small seminar rooms, and we will divide the room into 3 almost proportionally equal size. And then we come back here, and basically we have a few inputs from all the responsibles for those seminar rooms, and we will end up with the closing plenary. For the closing plenary, definitely we would like to see most of you being very active, and also the true consortium will reflect on the main learnings. The end of the day will not end basically at that moment, because we will have a guided tour in the building. So any of you who would like to see a famous room of this university is very welcome to join us. And also from 5 o'clock we will have a wine tasting event. So those of you who would like to stay, we have 25 places reserved for that wine tasting event. You are all friendly welcome to join us. Just let us know if you are available at that time. So next in our program, I would like to invite Pete Janetta, the true project coordinator, to give a brief talk about the whole project. But before that, I need to tell you that many of you already at the registration got a brochure of the program, and basically all these technical details you have. Probably one more thing, just behind you at the door you will find the Wi-Fi code that you can use throughout this event. And if you use Twitter or Facebook, please mention us as a project. That helps us to basically document the whole discussions around this. Now I turn to Pete and ask you to give a brief talk on
Thank you for the introduction, Alan. Good morning, everybody. Again, nice to see you all. It's a pleasure to be here. Director, Minister for Agriculture, we're an esteemed company. We really are. It's great for me to be in the business school as well. For me as a biologist, I wouldn't have imagined leading a project that is so entrenched in business. But yet, that is the future of sustainable systems. We've seen many threats politically around the world, economically, food crisis, fuel crisis, but actually all these represent, I think, a terrific opportunity for legumes. First I want to say thanks to the people who contributed yesterday. All those talks will be on the True website. And for the people who weren't there yesterday, please go and have a look. There's a tremendous range of talks that spanned a great range of resources from genetics. And I must say that the diversity that you have to draw upon in terms of the crop types for legumes in Hungary is amazing. It's really bowled me over the number of exceptions you have for some of these species. And while we have a tremendous focus today on consumers and linking them to producers, yesterday we had I can't talk about all the talks, but I'll pull out some pinpoints of slow food's concept of consumers being co-producers. The consumer isn't aware of their power in the marketplace and how we can best draw upon that. But that brings us into business logics. We actually met one of our work package leaders in the programme who's registered for a PhD in the business school to tease apart what it is to have sustainable business logic and entrenching that in your governance systems, I think is a challenge. So let's not forget when we talk to consumers and producers, there's a big middle ground that determines whether legume supported systems are going to be profitable. And it's really that middle ground, I feel, that allows these ideas of legumes to be implemented. They are that link between the consumer and the production. And that's a link that goes in both directions. So developing those relationships, that link in the middle ground between the producers and the consumers, to me is a very important way forward when it comes to implementation. It's not relevant, I don't think, to CAP, Common Agricultural Policy, and how that develops. If I look around the world, the countries that have food systems that are heavily legume supported have got rid of their CAP. That's not to say they don't have mechanisms of support, but they have different forms of support. So to me that's tremendously interesting, and we can perhaps discuss it as the day goes on. But I just want to thank you all again for coming. Please, throughout the day, let your opinions and ideas and concepts go free, because without that willingness to share, we can't really move forward. So thank you very much.
And about the organizers, I'm really happy to be here because two of the organizers are very long-term and good friends and scientific partners, as well as I'm an ex-scientist. And I truly believe that you are in good hands during these days. You will receive scientifically sound information and also economically sound information, because they are both good in practice and in science, and it's a rare combination. And this is something which we really need. So about legumes, our topic. It is important for a healthy plant because it's good for feed, it's good for food, being healthy, but it's more importantly, almost more importantly, it's very good for our soils, one of our basic natural resources. So that's why the Hungarian agricultural policy has an aim to support protein production, and also because this is a high value sector. And also our country has a very firm GMO-free policy, so I would truly believe that in Europe this kind of agriculture can be competitive, and every initiative and every project which helps us to be less dependent of import GMO proteins is welcome. I would like to have a few words about the tools we have as a government or as a ministry. First of all, we have national tools. It's quite a few, so it's not a lot. But we have a protein program which provides extra subsidies for legumes, and which also focuses the research directions of our background institute. The Ministry of Agriculture has two research institutes, Background Institute, the National And in this program, we try to focus their work to help protein production in Hungary. Also, we have another tool, CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, which we heard already about. CAP has strict rules, and because of international regulations, on principle, it does not allow to have specific production-linked subsidies. But from 2015, there was a possibility to create what is called voluntary capital support, so support that which is linked to production. And the Hungarian government designed a program which supports protein production through this tool. Also, there is another option, the rules of greening, where we created a program which allowed protein production, soil production, and ecological focus areas. So this is basically what the support side, and because farmers are very rational people, they started to produce more. So now we have protein production on 4,000 hectares, and basically 60% soil, and it's a 40% increase from 2015 from the new subsidies. But my main message is that this is not the most important tool we have. The most important tool we have is you as a consumer, because farmers are rational people, and if you, consumer, demand more protein, demand more legumes, then they will produce. Because profitability for them is very important, and if we have projects and initiatives which help us to make legume consumption more sexy, then our farmer will provide you with these legumes. So ministry is important, regulation is important, but you as a consumer is the most important thing. And I think this project is important because it helps to create food which is tasty and which is easy to access. And I think that the consumers of today want to have nice, tasty food which is easy to access. We are very, very lazy. And I'm sure that in the coming presentation you will hear the data about it, how to overcome this kind of consumption barrier. So last but not least, I would like to sum up that I wish you a very good scientific or intellectual and culinary journey in the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for the kind invitation. It's not only a pleasure to talk to you about a topic that I'm very passionate about, but also to come to Budapest for the first time. So I'm really enjoying my time, and you guys are very lucky to visit such a beautiful city. Today I'd like to give you a short overview on what our university is doing with regards to product development in True. But most of all, I would like to give you a short overview of also my thoughts on how we can get novel legume products in the market and in consumers' plates. And so, as we heard yesterday, I'll try to speak slowly because I tend to speak quite fast like Pete, so if I'm speaking too fast, please raise your hands. And this doesn't work, but it's okay. Like this? Will it work? No, it doesn't work. No. There you go. Okay, I found it. I think that works. So, as we heard yesterday, there is a growing demand for animal protein. This graphic shows you in red bars the amount of animal-based product demand in 2005 and how this will evolve by 2050. And it's clear that this demand is going to rise tremendously. However, as we all know, animal protein has a very high environmental footprint, and as such, people have been trying to find alternatives for this high environmental impact, and as such, legumes are an excellent alternative source. And they're excellent for many different reasons, besides being very tasty, in my personal opinion. They're also very healthy, and this stems from the fact that they have very high fiber content, very high protein content, lots of bioactive compounds, and this helps with lowering stable, if not lower. And so all this has triggered the consumer to look for pulse-based proteins, and there are four main drivers for this urge to start eating more pulses. One has to do with health and happiness and wellness. The second has to do with food allergies. More and more you look in the market and you see that people are looking for dairy-free. That's one of the most important labels that's being utilized by consumers nowadays, and looking for alternatives of dairy protein is important. Another is ethics and sustainability. The consumer is becoming more aware of the importance of our planet and eating in a more sustainable way. And the fourth is food safety. So people look at clean labels, minimally processed, and legumes fit perfectly well in this category. And in fact, Europe has been doing a great job at this when compared to other markets. We are really on the forefront of developing novel pulse-based products. This was a navigator report that you can have access to that depicts an analysis that was done at UCB. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself from where I am. So I'm based in Portugal at the Catholic University of Portugal. And we've found that in the last few years, over 30,000 legume-based products were available in the European market. This is a huge increase, and a lot of this increase was particularly higher, if you can see here, after this event of the International Year of Pulses. The International Year of Pulses was a large initiative of multiple organizations that did an excellent job at showcasing the benefits of legumes at multiple levels. And our analysis showed that this really seems to have had a big impact on the industry, because the industry is paying attention to what the consumer wants. And so this led to a big surge in terms of new product development, with the UK on the forefront of the number of products that they've been releasing. Of course, you need to take this data with a grain of salt, because Mintel, the program that we use to make these calculations, has a very big presence in the UK, and so there may be some deviation in these numbers, but still the UK is a very active partner in new product development, as you can see here. Followed by France and Germany, I would say Hungary and Portugal were not on the top list, but hopefully after this scenario will change a little bit. So in True, we are developing new products with legumes of different types, because as you know, pulses can be incorporated into dairy products, into snacks, as meat replacers. There's a multitude of different applications for legumes. That's also one of their beauties, is their versatility. And in collaboration with our partners at IGV, we are developing different types of snacks and extruded substrates that can be used then to create the famous bolognese, which we were talking about yesterday. And despite the fact that IGV is very much pea-oriented, they're very open and they're not trying different types of legumes, because another thing that True aims to do is to diversify the portfolio and not just focus on one main legume. So it would be great if we could incorporate other types of legumes. This is another success story related to True. This is Kirsty from RDK. So that's another line of research which we are developing. They are using legume byproducts in the distilling process, creating alcoholic beverages based on beans, for example. And these have had a tremendous success, and we hope to find these soon in our markets everywhere. As you see, I'm not going into detailed scientific background of how these products are developed, because I don't think that's the point here. I'm just giving you some examples and trying to give you some inspiration on we are actually doing things. And so this is another product that's being developed in collaboration with Growing Research. It's a tofu. So we are developing a tofu based on fava bean. And this has been a trial and error process. And next week we will be doing our first sensorial panel of 60 people who have volunteered to try this tofu. I will let you know how it goes. We are also developing a new drink. I don't have this here, but this is based on an idea from a Guatemalan student. And in Guatemala, they have a very nice sort of fava, and it's delicious, I can tell you, and I think it could be a good replacement for some of the soluble coffees that they're not coffees, they're made with cereals, but they are brown and they taste a little bit like coffee, and if we can incorporate fava into one of these drinks, I see until but it's actually quite good. Hopefully in Portugal next year we will have some tasting panel of this drink for you guys to try. Other types of products here now, this is based in my university. We are developing dairy-based products such as this symbiotic yogurt. I don't know if you've heard of this concept, but basically what it does is it combines probiotics, and everybody knows what probiotics are. They're readily available in the supermarket, and we give the legume flour as a substrate, as a prebiotic for that probiotic. And so the probiotic feeds off of the fava bean in the yogurt and it creates a symbiotic yogurt. It sounds really cool. Legume was one of the best flavoring ones. We've been trying different kinds of legumes. However, is this enough? So we are producing all these things and creating delicious different kinds of foods, and everybody knows about the Impossible Burger in the United States, or the Green Butcher. Have you heard about the Green Butcher? Here, if you haven't, you should Google. It's fantastic. It's now become a big chain of vegetarian products that are sounding like meat and looking like meat, and they're now being retailed across Europe. But I can't dwell on everything, but I wanted to just give you some key messages as to is this enough? Well, number one, well, it's not enough. Number one, we need to have, and this has been recurrent, more hard evidence on the benefit, health benefit, the true health benefit of pulses in people's lives. I believe that if we can showcase that legumes are really good for your health, and this is not just based on popular science or on old folks' tales, this is based on hardcore scientific evidence, then we have more power to in the media to say, really, you should be eating this because you get more iron in your blood and you get lower cholesterol levels. And so at UCP, we ran the first half of a feeding trial where we're asking people to eat legume-based lunch for 8 consecutive weeks during weekdays. Okay, so they have a break during the weekend to eat another type of food. But so the first 20 participants were really kind, and they've had a great compliance, and we collected all sorts of biological samples, fecal samples, urine samples, anthropometric measurements, and just food dietary registries for several days. And the first set of people who have been analyzed show that, for example, one common myth is that if you don't eat meat, you're going to become anemic. Who has heard of this? Or has this heard before? And you need to have red meat in order to have iron in your blood. Well, we've shown with these participants that by eating legumes, the iron levels don't lower at all. So that's already good. It's not harming your iron levels. That's a myth that can be deconstructed right there. And actually, cholesterol levels tend to lower as well. So next month, we will start the second round of 20 participants. We are now in the recruiting phase. Unfortunately, you cannot fly to Portugal every day for lunch to do this. But we're thinking here to replicate this study here in Hungary, and then you will have the opportunity to participate in eating delicious legumes for 8 weeks. Isn't that exciting? And so another thing that I think needs to be deconstructed is this myth that, well, not just a myth, it's that legumes can be really bad for you. And people have heard of favism, for example, and this is a real thing. So if you eat too much fava bean has a lot of lysine and chondroitin levels, which may be not good for your red blood cells. And here you can see Pythagoras telling his followers in the 16th century, do not eat beans. And he's referring to fava bean. And so this is still a common thing that you hear in schools and in different places. However, this can also be overcome if we invest a lot also on breeding for better legumes to develop these new food products. And just July, I went to Saskatchewan in Canada, and these are little baby fava beans that have 0 lysine and 0 chondroitin that have been bred to eliminate these anti-nutritional compounds. And so these are ready to produce delicious feeds and foods that are completely safe for animal or human foods. So I think lots of research can be still done in this area as well. Another thing is that legume innovation for new food products should never be disconnected with sustainability values. And this is a competition, it's on the second year. You're very welcome to participate next year, for example. It gathers students which are working on food technology together with marketing students, and they get together to create sustainable new food products. And then they go to France to defend their products and hopefully win the competition. And curiously, this last year, several of the finalists have products based on legumes. So that was really exciting to see. And one of them was developed in my university. It's called Being Ready. They developed a sustainable vegetarian feijoada dish. This feijoada usually is loaded with chorizo and red meat. And this alternative is completely vegetarian and it has sustainable packaging. It won the first place in Portugal, and now we're defending our Being Ready next month in the European level.
It is really a great pleasure to be here. First of all, because I am here in this university every second week, because I'm a teacher and I teach nutrition study. And the second one is because the main organizer, my classmate, we were together, we studied together in sociology university, and I can tell you that we didn't see each other since 15 years. So, and after 15 years, this is the day that we meet again. So, thanks, Mari, to invite me. So, today I would like to speak about the nutritional knowledge, but of course, as a dietitian, I would like to emphasize the guidelines, and also I will speak about the importance of healthy nutrition and the healthy effect of legumes. And I will show you some surveys regarding the attitudes and knowledge of the population. And of course, I would like to make some summary. So, but what does it mean, healthy nutrition? When we speak about healthy nutrition, the major point is that it must be a balanced diet. You know that all material, all nutrition we should consume in the right amount and in moderation. So, the balance is the first. And the variety, as I mentioned, so we should consume the cereals, we should consume veggies and fruits and milk products, dairy products, and meat as well in a variation. And this means that if I eat today only salad, and this means that and tomorrow probably a lot of chocolate cakes, this doesn't mean I am on a healthy diet or I am continuing the healthy nutrition. So seriously, why healthy nutrition is important? Because we know, and there are really evidence now, that the diet and the lifestyle related diseases, for example, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, diabetes, count 50 to 70% of overall mortality in the world. So this means that is a huge amount of percentage, as I can tell you. So, and inappropriate nutrition and lifestyle cause the unfavorable health status of the population and the high mortality rate. So our common duty, common action is the health promotion and the disease prevention, nutrition and lifestyle. That is a prognosis, how shifting the burden of diseases, and you can see what is important in this orange part. increase more than 10% in 2020. And these non-communicable diseases connection to the lifestyle, which is part of the healthy nutrition. So, and the healthy nutrition, as I mentioned, and we are here, we know very well that the plant-based diet has a lot of health aspects, and so, for example, the high intake of fruits, vegetables, all grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds diet significantly lower risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, type 2 diabetes, as we heard before, but I will also mention more research about these topics. And if we speak about legumes and plant-based diet, we should emphasize the vegetarian diet because that is also a trend today. And I just found that the American Dietetic Association, it was the name, they changed the name, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics nowadays. So they made a position paper about the vegetarian diet, and you can read that they established that the appropriately, and that is really most important, the appropriately planned vegetarian, including vegan diets are healthful, nutritionally adequate, and may provide health benefits in the prevention and treatment of certain diseases. It's okay, but we have in Hungary, we don't have this position paper yet, but we should work on it, I think. And furthermore, you can read that plant-based diets are more environmentally sustainable than diets rich in animal products because they use fewer natural resources and are associated with much less environmental damage. And we know, but there is a position paper, and of course, if we speak about nutritional science, we should use guidelines and evidence-based. In Hungary, we have nutritional guidelines, the so-called okostányér, that is a smart plate. And sorry, this is Hungarian, but probably you can understand because the pictogram in this red circle there are the veggies, the vegetables, and you can see that if we continue and we make the detail, you can see that it's written that legumes, for example, beans, lentils, chickpeas, and soya beans, soups, vegetables, salads, and spreads. So it's mentioned already that legumes must be a part of a healthy diet. Before that, this recommendation, this guideline is only 2 years old, and I can tell you our last guidelines was 15 years old, and it was not really mentioned, the legumes. And we have a recommendation for kids as well, from 6 to 17 years old children. And you can see there is also mentioned in this guideline and the same, but we didn't make here any amount, so the quantity is not mentioned. However, we have in Hungary the so-called public catering law, as I have translated this, and you can find that there is a really detailed, very detailed description about the portion of the legume portion, and for example, that from 4 to 6 years old, if the catering staff want to make legumes puree or to give a sign, it must contain 40 to 60 grams. And you can see if the soups, if they want to cook a soup or a cold dish, what does it mean, one portion. And, okay, the portion and the quantity is very important, but the time, the frequency, we should speak and we should emphasize about this as well. You can see that there is also a detailed description about that during 10 years, not years, days, 10 years, the kids and in the hospitals, for example, who support the old day, they should consume 1 to 3 times per day, per 10 days. So, and we know that legumes are a significant source of protein, carbohydrates, low in fat, low glycemic index, and the huge amount of dietary fiber, and has benefits of type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, because of potassium, for example, magnesium and fiber, and they have this positive impact. And weight management, that is also important, that the regular consumption may have weight control, and because the slowly digested carbohydrates can help with satiety as well, and of course the protein. So, and in the second or the other part of my presentation, I will speak about our study, that is the nutritional knowledge study, we call this. It was 2016 and 2017, that was the representative study in Hungary, and we wanted to know that the attitudes and the knowledge about nutrition and lifestyle, what is in the Hungarian, among the Hungarian population. And we asked questions regarding the food safety and the labeling, what is the important, why they show, what they show in the, for example, in the food label. So, what are the barriers to a healthier lifestyle? In the first, you can see that 66% said that because I have not enough money. I would be more healthy if I would have more money. And the second, mentioning the more willpower. So they said that, okay, I have no willpower. This means that I don't need to stand up and walk or to change our lifestyle. So the excuse, that is, and unfortunately, that the adult population don't want to change and just always search the excuse. Whether they have information and knowledge about the energy, the recommended daily energy intake. And you can see that almost half of the population, half of the respondents are unaware of this recommended daily energy intake. But so they don't have the basic knowledge how their body is working and what are the basic process in their body. There are huge discussions whether the healthy or unhealthy foods is existing. So you can see the answer, what is healthy, that 42% said, and I think there is unhealthy food, the 58 said no, because everything is healthy. And what does it mean, healthy food? Healthy food is free of artificial ingredients, fresh, made of natural ingredients from traditional farming. I make, because that is, of course, is related to our topic today. And we make some nutrition dilemmas, and probably you don't, sorry, you can see that it's important that the homemade food is more important, or the more advantage than the industrial product, and you can see that no preservatives, rich in fiber, all grain, free from E numbers, only natural ingredients, so it's fresh and natural and farming are the major driving power. So, summary, the legumes must be part of a healthy diet, absolutely, that is not a question. And we know that there are many health benefits to consume more. Unfortunately, there are so many misbeliefs, so we should fight against but with cooperation only, with food scientists and food preparation, dietitians, and of course we should draw attention of the population, and not only the population but the media as well. So, and the education is the key, that the population need to have the basic knowledge. So, and finally, I would like to quote Nelson Mandela, that education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. And thank you for your attention.
So first to introduce what is actually food service, because I think it's important that we have some kind of a common understanding when we talk about this, if we're going to look at the perspectives from all ledgers in the system. And food service are all the types of meals you eat which you not prepare yourself. Everything you eat outside homes, if you eat in hospitals, in armed forces, restaurants, fast foods, coffee shops, company canteens. So it's a very, very diverse market with a lot of diverse actors, small businesses, very large businesses, international businesses. And all of this points down to there are lots of routes to market for bringing new products into the market. It also talks for it that you can find a lot of different products and a very, very wide diversity of demands. And I'll try to give you some examples about what is really happening in Scandinavia, try to give you perspective what's going on and the type of products and what's actually driving the system. And I hope it will provide you with some information, some inspiration to also consider the food service market, because it holds a very large potential. And I think the estimated figures we arrived in the true project was that food service, if you look across the European countries, is actually something like 25% of all the food consumed, if we look across the countries. So it's actually quite a large part of the food consumption which goes into this market. If we're going to talk about legumes, maybe it's also good to ask ourselves what are the consumers' opinion about the food. And here I'll give some examples from the Scandinavian canteens when there was this food service survey, where we asked the consumers, what is actually your biggest reason for changing your diets or asking for an alternative to what is normally served? And they said, well, we would very much like to have meat replacement diets. You see there is more than 50% across the countries which actually say, yes, I did have a meat-free diet, meat-free day. And why did you have this? They say it's because of the economy, meat may be very expensive. It's because of environmental concerns. So if you eat meat, you're producing good for the environment, which in Scandinavian countries also link very well with the considerations behind organic agriculture, because a major driver for organic agriculture, organic food, is the environmental impact. So we have very strong conscience in the Scandinavian countries on this aspect. So this means when we look at the menus, we're talking about something which is much more green. So what does this really mean when we talk about peas and beans and all the legumes we've been discussing here? It actually means that it can have a more profound role than we just imagine, because many company canteens, we particularly talk about the company canteens, they have a fresh salad bar every day, and here legumes and vegetables are very important. You see vegetables, the legumes, the green legumes roasted, you see salted, dried, processed, marinated, so much more than just the dried grains. You also see fresh vegetarian products, you see meat-free options, and I also want to underline the dairy alternatives, because they're also a driver in the food service market. Think when you go to Starbucks and you ask for a coffee, they will also ask you, would you like to have a soy milk? If you go to hotels, you can that they make the dairy alternative products. You have the soy milk, the almond milk, the oat milk, and so on. And we will see a stronger driver also in the hospitality sector for this kind of products. But we also have to consider people who have to produce the meals in the food service sector. And if we want to reach these people, we have to come up with products which are actually fit into the way a professional kitchen works. And this means we have to address products which fit production routines, which are very much driven by easy to prepare, doesn't have to take a long time, it has to have an extreme high food safety, so food safety should actually be on top of the agenda. And then on the other hand, it also has to be inspirational, fresh, open for creative dishes, the chefs can play around with this. So there are lots of different parameters new products in the food service market have to address. And I just want to show you just these three products. The first one is produced in Sweden actually. It's a Scandinavian food processing company behind this. And it's a vegetarian alternative to schnitzels and burgers. It sells both for the food service and the retail market. The other one, the cans, is just to indicate that don't get carried away with all these novel stuff, which is so exciting, but there is a huge market for dry beans, for canned beans, for canned and for frozen traditional standard goods. It's a big market. And then, of course, there are the dairy alternatives. So, when we talk about food processing companies, we also look at the education aspect. I think it's important also to consider the food service market as a tool for communication. And what I have here is an advertisement from the Orkla company. It was brought in a food service magazine in Denmark. That's why it's making it difficult to read for you. But the point is, here the company communicates to the professionals in the kitchen. See, we have got all these wonderful types of beans. They're processed, they're ready for you to use. So just go ahead and buy it. It's there for you to use. So it's a very, very strong communication tool, and it really contributes to educating people in the professional kitchens to see beans in a new way. In this case, beans only. But we should also think of food service as the traditional fast food market. And this is also an example. This is from Sweden. That's why it's in Swedish. But the point is, in 2017, the McDonald's company in Sweden and the big company Orkla here, they joined forces and they developed a veggie burger, which was tested in Stockholm and Helsinki. And now it has been rolled out across McDonald's in Sweden and in Finland, and it really sells. Then comes the second burger chain in Sweden, a company called Max. They have more than 100 restaurants across Sweden, and they say if McDonald's can do it, then we can do it. So they also created a veggie burger, and what this ad says, it says, now we are making it more difficult for you to choose from, because we have actually 4 veggie burgers on our menu. So this is just to indicate that there is also possibilities in what we consider a very, very traditional fast food market, which is just the burger. So the point of this is simply to say there are huge opportunities. Build the partnerships, see the opportunities, and adapt the products and the marketing to what is going on. If we talk about the trends in the market, we should not forget the flexitarians, the vegetarians, and the vegan trends, because the consumers are showing these trends. We do see this in the market. But the point is, we see this as a driver, but it's not the mass market. And what I'm showing you here is the menu from an Italian franchise concept. It's called Universo Vegano. And they have small restaurants, a big restaurant, they have food truck, they have lots of different setups. But just to indicate, we have now restaurant chains which are running only vegan. So we see the chains starting to build. So it's not just something popping up here and there, but we're starting to see chains indicating that there is a business for this, indicating that there is really a demand among consumers to go for such menus. But also, Marta, I see you hit the traditional point in your talk, and I will have the traditional point in the food service market, stating that there are traditional dishes which we do not have to overlook because they have to have the legumes and peas and beans as they always have. So don't get carried away with veggie burgers only. Also consider the market for the traditional traditional dishes. And what I've shown you here is the fish and chips and mushrooms. It has to be that way. The second one is the Danish dish. We have ham and the stewed vegetables. It has to have the peas. And then we have the chili con carne, the global dish by now from Mexico. So it also has to have the beans. So the point is that we see a lot of innovation, and what this means to the professional kitchen is that it's also a scene for playing around, bringing in new things. And what I'm showing you here, the bottle, that is a pea soya. It was developed in Sweden, and it won the first prize award in a restaurant innovation contest. So it's a startup company, and I've only seen this product once, and I would very much like to hear the company what is the success rate for this. It's innovative thinking, and it was actually a winner. The other thing I'm showing you, the one with the jar in your hand, that illustrates how the Nordic chefs are working with fermentation of vegetables. So fermentation is a hit right now. How to work with this and legumes is a big trend. So therefore, coming back to the final lines of this, is that the food service market actually has a very strong role to play in education. So it's education of consumers, building courage of consumers, trying these new dishes, which I would never dream of cooking myself, but maybe I dare try it if somebody prepares it for me. It is also the point that you have to educate the chefs and the people in the professional kitchens to actually work with these products, because in Denmark we don't have a big tradition for using dry beans, so this is education for the people working in the company canteens. How can we actually cook creatively the self-product? And also I want to say that because we have a very strong affinity for traditional dishes, it's also important to think that maybe traditional dishes could also be a way of driving in the leisure consumption, because it could create some kind of revival, interest in the traditional dishes. So I think that was what I had to say. Thank you very much.
As you have seen in some of the examples already now, in the international and European level policy discussions around food and agriculture, legumes became really a protagonist, and not only in the common agriculture policy, but in much more broadly in food policy debates. So here you have legumes in very different costumes already as meat and analogs, or they can be really stars for international year. They are also actors who help us to transition towards a more sustainable food system. There are many interesting policy initiatives at the moment running, including, for example, Fit for Food, the Food 2030 strategy, or the soil declaration. And these are all actually very much based in also in a policy paradox. It has been mentioned that policy support that is existing, for example, in the common agricultural policy, and would like to support legume-based food production is a failure. We can say it's a failure because it doesn't really increase the legume-based diets all over Europe, but it's also a failure in terms of the production side, because it doesn't really increase legume-based production either. So basically, when we are talking about policies here, we really look for innovation, innovative policies. What are those areas that can really facilitate this transition towards more sustainable food systems? And with that, we put this as a main question in our previous report that has been completed last year. It's freely available, and we looked through many interesting European policy areas. They are all connected to the legumes. But the sad message is that legumes, you would think they would be an evident solution to many of these problems, but they are hardly even mentioned in some of these policies. So basically, most of our work concentrates on what are the chances for legume towards a sustainability transition. And here we are not completely alone. There are many interesting research going on in this area. Two previous ones, which has actually looked into what are the actually existing common agriculture policy, let's say, incentives and that are available, and it analyzed some of those. The conclusion is, of course, is an integrated policy, which is very much relying on the greening measures, but also more investment in innovative research, and also complete ban of nitrogen fertilizers. And also another type of report that has been ordered by the Commission concludes that it's not even the common agricultural policy that would really help, but it's more a regulation of the international trade and climate change mitigation measures that would have a significant effect on legume production and consumption. So interesting, and this is the baseline where we start to think of policy innovations for increasing plant-based protein consumption, sometimes lead to consumers. Many of these examples have been already mentioned. Portugal, as many other countries like Hungary, has also a smart plate or wheel. There are more market-oriented examples, like, for example, Britain's pulse and grains pioneers bring in top-quality ingredients from gene banks and serve them as delicious consumption of food, all sourced from local British farms. This example has been already mentioned. Farm bean as main ingredients, one of the main ingredients of beer, but also examples in the US, like brand protein stamp, which has been just recently introduced, which would indicate the protein content in consumer products, the plant-based part, of course, but also I can mention here policy innovation that is planned by Slow Food, Germany, and Youth Movement. It's a cookbook, basically, which will bring together all the cooking knowledge around legumes. And basically, we can consider as an innovation in terms of policy the type of events we have here. It is also a new type of science and policy interface, so what we call legume innovation and networking, and it is relying on a new type of, let's say, regulatory environment that encourages more plant-based diets. Most of the elements in the program for the day is designed according to these principles. Some of them are related to the process, how we are actually interacting here. It's also giving a lot of, it is also relying on a principle-based approach. So we don't know the silver bullet, so that's why we believe in experimentation and diversity, empathy, and also participation of all the different kinds of stakeholders. And we try to offer practical tools for making this work. So creative and tangible methods for telling and enacting our own experiences. So this is how we actually designed the whole day. And it would not be possible without the fourth element, which is people, you. And we would like to ask all of you to contribute to this during the day. And this is all for me. Basically, at this moment, as an organizer, I would like to give the floor questions and short answers, mostly on clarification. Just to speed up the process, I will go along with the mic. Anyone who has any question, please go ahead and ask the presenters.
I cannot say that they definitely check for this and this and this for their ingredients. I can only answer your question to say they have a very, very strong sourcing policy which they follow, which is very, very, on the other hand, difficult to become a supplier to McDonald's because it's a very strong contractual agreement. And I think the right answer in this connection is to focus on what are the requirements to their suppliers and how are they defined according to sustainability.
There is a contradiction to me in what we propose to the consumers. So we're telling consumers to basically eat less meat, which makes sense to me for many reasons. But on the other hand, we're offering products that are plant-based, but they're very highly processed. So if a consumer is looking for, I think one of the presenters showed that for consumers, healthy food is the one that has the least amount of artificial components. So this is the contradiction I see, where we're offering food that is highly processed, and we're telling the consumer that this is healthy food because it's plant-based. And I recall Michael Pollan's quote on his book, Omnivore's Dilemma, saying that he gave a suggestion to consumers to eat healthier food, and he said, don't eat anything that your grandmother will not recognize. And my grandmother will not recognize any of those burgers or whatever new products we have out there in the market, which is, I can tell her it's healthy and plant-based, but she will tell me, just eat the beans as they are.
My slides, I came across that paradox myself. And I thought, this is very silly because consumers want the least processed possible, but actually many consumers want the fast solution and supposedly healthy and vegetarian and sustainable and so it is a paradox, but you have consumers for every kind of solution that you can provide. I think, so the solution is you can't just do processed, and that's what I also wanted to convey with my talk, is that you need to also educate the consumer that legumes per se are very healthy and natural, and that they should be eaten as they are, not just as a protein extracted to make a vegetarian burger. And actually the EU is quite concerned into devising policies for this in terms of should you promote legumes as a commodity or as a protein, as a plant protein. And if you go to some industries, if you look at IGV, they have a big market for extracted plant protein, but there needs to be also a conscience for the locality of the product and for the short supply chain and for the minimally processed. And so these are just two different markets, but you're right, it sounds very much like a paradox.
Considering that legume, the true is meant to be looking at transition paths, evolution, maybe not revolution, and 85% of what we produce is for animals, which is highly processed feeds. But in terms of the transition at the moment, we do use a lot of legumes in Europe, but they're imported. So I expect the first transition is homegrown legumes into our food and feed markets. And the second transition and that would be an industrialized market.
Of course, this would be the best case scenario, but it is utopia. It's not reachable. And I think this we acknowledge if we say, okay, we have to see what consumers actually want, what they eat, what they have been eating, and there have been these developments from our grandma's world to today's world. And these developments didn't come from nowhere. It's because people unfortunately, they like all these processed food products. So we have to be pragmatic and see what can we do that's actually possible to change, and not what is the perfect scenario, but it's unfortunately maybe impossible to tackle.
People believed, mainly, that not having money, enough money, was a barrier to their lifestyle improvement or their consumption improvement. So that's my first question. So my question is, what do they believe money gives them? And the second question, I guess, was 50% of people also believe that certain types of food were unhealthy to consume, but they consume them anyway.
Yes.
Why is that? So there's two questions there. So one is the one about money, and why do people do what they believe is unhealthy?
I try to explain that I think that the excuse, that is the most important for the general population. That and not to be active, that not to act. That is the most important. So, and regarding the money, there are so many misbeliefs regarding the financial part of the healthy nutrition, that so many people that believe that the healthy nutrition must be expensive.
For the freshly grown in area. Okay. My favorite product, if we look at these, I have tried this one, the pasta made of peas, and I think it's too much peas, and the lentils, too much lentils. I have not tried this one. I think this is a good one. It looks good. I dare not try the sprouts because I don't like sprouts. I tried this. It's okay if you like hummus. This one is my favorite because I don't feel the beans or the lentils in this one.
So I just have a question about this market problem. That did these small companies try to sell themselves, or cooperate and sell themselves directly to the consumers, to a short chain?
Yes, the small companies, the entrepreneurial companies and the innovative products I have seen, they go either directly from the company to a retailer, it could be in a local retailer or another type of store, or they find alternative distribution channels to linking up with box schemes or internet sales, going for drugstores instead of retailers. So thinking of alternative distribution channels, but the entrepreneurial companies, they do not distribute together. It's a company by company basis.
This is about the legume consumption in school catering. So we conducted a survey in the last year, and the principle of the survey was to obtain data about the real consumption of food in school catering in schools. So the basis was that we weighed the food that was served to the children, and after we also weighed the returned food.
All these different initiatives try to drive public food procurement in Hungary to a more sustainable direction. And the major driving force behind this is the recognition that, well, as we have some data here, it seems that public food procurement is a good spot to make some intervention and drive food consumption to a more sustainable direction.
So Napi Tudás is an initiative to promote sustainable nutrition. It has been started 2.5 years ago while I was working in catering after my nutrition master studies, and I got bored about the lot of meats and fat diets because they not support sustainable eating. So I decided to write a blog, and then my friend who is an archaeologist joined me. Because most of the myths are based on misinterpreted history, but we can get clues about sustainable eating from our heritage as well.
I really feel like a school teacher. Do I get a big stick?
Now there are many young people who are turning towards vegan, vegetarian, and so on. And personally, I find it super cool to eat some, I don't know, pasta or, as you say, pizza dough that is made with legume, because it's innovative, and I think they're, yeah.
I've never seen, for example, in baby glasses or so, that there are legumes. Or when you ask about guidelines for what's the parent thinks so much about is what is the first thing to feed in the first month and what amount, and legumes are not almost never included. And there's a lot of shit included. So,
but actually, because children can't digest legumes
Yes, they can. Yes, they can. It's a traditional thing. And in India, in Mexico, they eat legumes from...
And they say the allergy with peanuts is becoming more prevalent because children are not being exposed to peanuts, for example.
Green beans and green peas are considered in the vegetable category, and there they can be given. And it's also a question, I think, because of the know-how and preparation of the general public and even the communal kitchen cooks of how to prepare dry pulses in a way that doesn't cause bloating with adults and doesn't cause bellyache with children.
People in the sector of dietitians, nutritionists that still argue that legumes may be bad for you. You know, the anti-nutrients of legumes. Do you think in Hungary that's still a concern?
I was talking to one of the, when I was conducting the interviews in Hungary, I was talking to one of like the main person in like nutritional research institute, and she believed in the paleo diet. I don't know if you know the paleo diet, but the paleo diet says that the Paleolithic man didn't eat legumes, neither should you. And this was a person in like top policy level saying, yeah, but maybe we shouldn't eat legumes. I'm like, okay. So there is still a preconception, and there is also like you're trying to get information through, in Hungary it's like this, through a very pseudo-scientific noise, back noise of people telling people what to eat. And you're going against pseudoscience every time you say, but you should eat this or you should cook this. And I think that's why there should be more evidence concern the cooking and these inhibitors and how much long you have to cook certain legumes, and you have to get rid of the water and cook it again, and then you're not going to have this bloating problem. And people have no information about that, and even if they do, no one's going to listen to them. Like, I'm arguing with my mother about the Paleolithic diet, and we're having...
I think this you have to have a good influencer, yes, which probably somebody who is more than just I don't know how many followers. So that's how David Attenborough comes into the picture, because he's not just a guy with a lot of followers, but someone who has the authenticity or a credible word, or somehow because of his background, because of his work, because of his results so far.
I think he's going to be out of the box and just doing everything that could maybe result in enhancing legumes. So it's the health, it's the diet, it's environment, it's the food. So small initiatives, maybe around the main problem, that could then end with the result that you want to go.
Well, we're here today. We have some ground-up initiative of different types. Then we have something happening here, something happening here, 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 and now we're flying, right? This is what we want to do. Now it works across the EU. So what we should do is actually see, okay, what is needed here, you know, to get things growing? What is needed here? Because that's another initiative than this one. What is needed here, and how do we actually move? Maybe this one will take us this way. Yeah?
You are saying that we should be able to address the different levels with different approaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying we cannot, if this is the situation today, we have legumes in the feed, we have legumes in the food, farmers grow, this is fine. In some years we will have the cap reform and some new policies will come in. This would, maybe if the policy is successful, it will take us to level 2, let's call this level 2. Yes, fine. But there is no guarantee that we go to level 3 if we make the same mistakes as in the existing cap, because the greening doesn't work and people don't want to eat legumes and blah, blah, blah. So, something may take here, but what is the guarantee that we can actually go further on? And this may be even, let's say, 1 initiative, 2 initiatives, 3 initiatives, 4 initiatives, which together creates this system. And I think this is probably something which needs to be figured out, because having this and just scaling up will not do the trick, because there are so many aspects to this. as we have heard today, we have been discussing anything from cannabis to bioculture, to paper, to doctors, we're far away from just talking about peas and beans, which is fun. But a lot of different things needs, and some will work and some will not, and the combination and the timing and the scale of these initiatives is probably something which we need to consider if we really want to make some changes.
Okay, I'll just highlight maybe some of the most important things, and if I forgot something, please remind me, okay? So we had a really nice discussion. It was actually getting really good towards the end, and we had to stop. But in any case, we drew some conclusions. We spoke about the fact that price can be considered as a hinder or also as an advantage, so we need to lower the price, and price seems to be a bit in the center of it all, and so we need to find ways to get cheaper but locally grown legumes, nothing new. We spoke about regional cooperatives that may help farmers create business models, because sometimes for farmers it's difficult to complete the value chain because they know how to farm, they know how to grow, but they don't know how to sell, so there needs to be support for farmers to create business models. Government, there was a suggestion from Pete, why should government pay more to schools so that schools can buy better and more legumes, and especially grown in the region. We spoke about linking legumes to biodiversity and animal husbandry, despite the fact that in certain countries, such as Hungary, animal husbandry has been diminishing quite drastically. We suggested putting kids in gardening programs and growing their own legumes. It's a tradition from old times to have the experiment of growing a bean, and that seems to be fading away, so we should bring it back. This and other initiatives, and there are some really cool initiatives from, for example, the National Nutritionists Association in Spain that drew out a big booklet how to promote legumes for children, and this could be translated into different languages. I think people should look at that document. We should associate beans to happiness, much like we do with beer or Coca-Cola, because this would, if we could somehow find a way to do this, this would make beans really appealing, because right now beans are just boring, to be honest. And so we came up with a series of sentences and that could cheer up the consumer to maybe want to eat beans, and we wanted to expand this to the audience. So if you have logo sentences, suggestions to make beans really cool, then send us an email. I'm just going to say what we came up with in 5 minutes. One is cool beans, bon fagioli. Just repeat. Beans are saving the planet. Don't worry, being happy. I like this one. This has an anagram: be environmentally conscious, awesome, natural, and sustainable. So if you put bean on vertical, you use these words. So that is also cool. Beans make you smart. Beans make you strong and smart, sorry. Another one is being up for anything good. Beans a logical choice. Beans are a revolution. Pro-green. And that was it in terms of the sentences. So we welcome more suggestions. This is why I need assistance here with the microphone. And then finally, I don't know, the usual suspects. We spoke about tradition. We need to emphasize tradition. Make legumes trendy and super cool. And good cooking skills are necessary, and I think that's more or less it. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Valerie.
We like the discussions we had because of the variety of perspectives that all the participants brought to the table, as we had all kinds of people coming here from all kinds of directions. And what I think is important, and which is why I'm very happy about the title of these few days, is that you can have all the discussions you want, and you can forge the perfect solution to all the problems in your little creative workspace that we have here. But in the end, it's always the consumer's choice that decides if you live or you die on the market. And this, no matter the arguments you have, either you survive or you don't. And this is why the consumer's choice or the consumer's eyes should be much more in the focus, and this is why also I think we just need to go out and try with all kinds of businesses. So I think much more important are putting these ideas into practice and then seeing what ideas survive than discussing forever and ever and trying to find the perfect idea before letting it loose on the market.
In Germany we say, der Kunde ist König, the consumer is the king. And it's the same like you say. And I find the last words I heard from Marta, the slogans, I think they are more important as any education. When I think on education, then I think on the couple of years we try to make education for parents and children. Please don't use so much sugar, please don't use so much fat, please don't eat fast food, please don't eat snacks. And what is the result? I think all over the world there are 1 billion people which have overweight. And it's not reducing, it's always increasing. That's why such slogans, which stay in the head, I think it's maybe much more interesting than what is the nutrition, the protein content. For a couple of consumers it's important, but the most consumers it's not important. It's the price, it's the taste, and no more. That's why the slogan's fantastic.
So the difference between the supply chain and the value chain. And the supply chain is basically pushed by the suppliers, so the farmers. So that's the driving force, and the value chain is pulled by the consumers, and that's the driving force. So that's the difference between the two. And so it's really, this we discussed with Gabor, that if that's the case, that the consumers move the whole stuff, so that they are in the focus, then okay, we have to concentrate on how to raise awareness, how to communicate, how to educate, and all that stuff, the consumers, and when the consumers feel, and no, that the consumers move the whole stuff, and when the farmers or the traders feel the move, feel the momentum, then they, how to say, follow the line, and then at that very point, they of course get some support, they get some financial incentive and so on and so forth, but the whole thing is moved like a train, moved by the consumers, or the engine is the consumers. Which is partly true, but if that's the case, then it's a lucky situation. But we also heard from Karen that don't ask the consumers what they want, but provide them something and then see how they react, which is a kind of a contradiction. So I just want to kind of open this question up, that if to what extent should we rely on the consumers and the demand of the consumers, and to what extent should we modify these demands or create demands? That's a commonplace that, I don't know, 100 years ago no one would ever expect that the consumer would like a Coca-Cola. There was no demand for Coca-Cola. This is really a commonplace. So up till then, I think it's not very easy to answer this question, but up till then I think education, awareness raising, different kinds of communication, that's one thing to intervene a system, to push the information. And the other thing is different levels of shock. Shock can be an illness, shock can be a rise of the price, shock can be, I don't know, a devastating effect of the climate change, and these kind of things can make a momentum, can make a change. Whether it's a legume-based system or any other sustainability issue.
But like the only thing you can do is get a bag of lentils, cook them, and share them with one of your friends, and everyone can do that, and that's how all these things develop, I guess. You start small in your community, you start in your school garden, and like there is always like one thing every one of us can do a little bit, not policy, not just share a plate of legumes with someone.